So yeah, usually we just ask you record whatever in like MP3 format.
Sure.
And then just get us the file afterwards. And we'll edit it all together on our own. So least amount of work for you.
Hooray.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't have to do shit from here on out, just record.
And then basically we'll just do a countdown. We'll figure out an intro afterwards because we're professionals.
Well, sometimes we figure
How
it
many
out
episodes?
beforehand, but not really. 214?
Sorry, what? 214, yeah?
Anyways, this is the intro now.
Was that the intro?
It might be. This might be the intro.
Dogs, they're coming. They're coming your way. They'll be here soon.
Hey, they're the dog people, aren't they?
Those things out there are real. If they're real, what else is real? You may never get another night's sleep as long as you live.
Now, as of this moment, as far as we're concerned, we are 50k behind enemy lines. Now, expect nothing less than gratuitous violence from the lot of you.
Every year, more and more people come through here. Every once in a while, they don't come back. Captain?
You've got to get me out of here.
Looks like they got hit hard and fast. Every magazine is full.
From here on in, the exercise is over.
Exactly what is it we're fighting against?
Lycanthropes.
That's werewolves to you and me.
You came here because of them, right?
This was supposed to be a routine training exercise, and that's all.
Trick to survival lies not in running and hiding.
Salvage whatever weapons you can find and stand to.
Shut down the generator.
Why would they do that?
Because they can see in the dark.
And you're afraid of it.
There was only supposed to be one! You tore them to pieces in front of my eyes!
Honestly, what are our chances?
So, if Little Red Riding Hood should show up with a bazooka and a bad attitude, I expect you to chin the bitch.
You're bloody loving this, aren't you?
Terry, where you're at, stick the kettle on. Could all do with a brew.
I found... Man, we got this movie. It's called Dog Soldiers. I'm opening up the case. There's a dog and it's a soldier. I wonder what this film's about. Does anybody have a clue what this movie might be
cats.
about? Cats.
Footy.
I don't want to think about cats. I have some stress dreams about that musical. I don't. Holy crap! It's about dog soldiers. What the? Anyway, welcome to the podcast. I guess we'll use one of those.
We'll use something.
Wow.
Wow, that's a great one. All right.
Rolling out the red carpet for this one.
Glad that we rolled out the red carpet for our good friend.
Sid, aka Beam Splash.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello. Oh, good to be here.
This is Rough Cuts. I'm Boix. That's Ilion, my co-host. We are here to watch films with dogs in them and then do the duty that everybody respects and expects of us, which is to rate the dog at the end, but not the film. That is the unimportant part of the movie.
But we will talk about it and critique it. Also, this is our good friend Sid, as we said, or Beam Splash from the Bad Video Game Hall of Fame podcast.
Bad Game Hall of Fame.
Bad Game Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, I'm being bad today.
Bad Game Hall of Fame, great podcast, great group of folks. Definitely check it out. But you actually, I had a list of films which were very bad, I assume. And then you came to us and were like, what about this good movie?
To be fair, this movie has been suggested, I think, approximately... We're on, what, episode 214?
Yeah,
so I'm going to say that we've had the request to do this film about 250 times.
250. It's been at least 100 episodes now of people saying, hey, you should do Dog Soldiers. I think this movie has gotten a resurgence a bit in the B-movie sphere, where people are like, dang, you heard about Dog Soldiers? So it sort of became like the, I don't know, like the B-movie's B-movie.
It's just such a dumb name. Like it's
very dumb.
Right off the bat, like that. I think that's why everybody wanted us to do it. Is they're like, well, it's dogs and it's soldiers. That's so stupid. You've got to do it. But then at the same time, for us, we're sitting there going, well, but it's generally fairly well regarded. So, and people know about it. Like generally, we like to do very occasionally. We will do a movie that's got a good reputation, but when we do those, like we did last time with Hundreds of Beavers and gave ourselves a little treat.
What a good movie.
Oh, what a good movie. But when we do that, it's because it's a movie that nobody knows about. Like we try and find like lost media of some kind. This one's known, so we haven't done it as much. But that being said, it was very interesting. I'm definitely willing to talk about this thing.
I get why folks are into this movie. Like I get it. I do. It's got so many influences. It's like your standard 80s, macho man fighting the monster movie, right? It's got your Predator, it's got your Evil Dead, it's got your bits of Platoon, I would say, bits of Night of the Living Dead in there. Tons and tons of influences. Also, the whole film is shot on an Arriflex camera, 35mm, and another 16mm camera. So like you can see the film grain, and you can see where they wanted that 80s look to the movie. And I appreciate that. At first I thought they were using a cheap digital camera, but I think that was just the 16mm.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned, like, oh, it's called the Dog Soldiers, like it's the name, and the name is dumb. The thing I do remember from seeing a behind-the-scenes featurette is that a producer was really insistent for a long time that the film be called Night of the Werewolf. Which would have been way worse, because it's not even one werewolf. That's like a big point in the movie. It's not the werewolf.
Yes, yeah. There's a really big point that it's like, it was supposed to be one! Yeah, right at the beginning.
That does call back to the Night of the Living Dead, though. Which I think is very influential and obvious when you watch this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to a bunch of people trapped in a barn from, like, monsters outside of it trying to make it through the night. That's 90%
improvising
of this movie.
A lot.
Yeah, true.
This movie, as much as, like, I was kind of saying that it didn't really, we weren't sure that it would match the podcast, which is why we've delayed it for quite a while. It's actually a perfect match for this podcast, because even though it is fairly well regarded, it's kind of also a pile of shit. It's a little bit of both. Like, honestly, like it really kind of is. It is very dumb in a lot of ways.
But what if the movie's like pissing? Have you thought about that?
What if it's like pooing?
What if it's like shitting? Like, I don't. Have we thought about that?
Pee-pee? But what if it's like more like a poo-poo?
This movie.
Some dialogue is... Yeah, I did actually have the note of, at 86 minutes, what if it's like pee-pee? Well, what if it's like poo-poo? So...
Yeah, the movie is set in Scotland, in the Scottish Highlands, and most of the cast is Scottish. The villain's British, I think.
That makes sense.
Well, a villain.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I think
discount John Reno, honestly.
Definitely. Yeah. There's so much Predator at the beginning of the film. It's like your standard, we're gonna drop a group of troops into a forest and then spooky monster attacks them while they're shooting into the woods, because it's free to shoot in the woods, so we have to do a scene in there. And also it's really easy to hide stuff when you're just constantly moving the camera quickly through trees. So you don't have to show as much, which is actually good, because then when they finally do show the monster later on, it hits harder, because the costume's actually good.
Yeah, it's initially shot like, like they don't have anything, kind of like, we only have like a hand or something we can show in this shot, but no, they got a suit.
That's what I was gonna say. Is a lot of those movies also are like, oh shit, we don't want people to see this because it does not look good. But when they finally get around to showing the full werewolves,
Yeah.
they're awesome. Like, probably some of the best costuming I've ever seen in a werewolf movie, and we've watched a lot.
I'd say the closest of what you and I have watched is probably Bad Moon.
Yeah.
Which has really good werewolf costume, but really dumb family stuff.
Yes. And this is kind of similar. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing with this movie. I get why people like it, because I think that the actual, a lot of the acting is pretty okay, and the, like, cinematography and the costuming is fantastic. Like, I think a lot of the shots are really well done. There's some really good, like, night fog and everything, like silhouetting of different things, and like the actual costume of the monsters is really, really solid. And then the plot is dumb as shit. Like, it is the dumbest motherfucking thing you could imagine.
Yeah, the script also feels like it's, on one hand, it feels naturalistic. I mean, I'm not Scottish, so like, it's they seem to be pretty natural about it. But then sometimes they say something I'm like, I don't think this would make more sense if I was Scottish. I think this is just a very strange way to talk about this. This analogy is not something that people would use.
Well, they do like footy a lot, though.
That's true.
Most things are footy. Like, if you think about it.
They've all been veterans of the footy war. They're waiting for it to end. They're just, like, looking for updates, you know, like, checking the walls for their family members who've been lost, you know. Yeah, I need updates from the footy war. Who knows? It could have been, like, who knows what's been lost in it next? Did it hit Glasgow? Like, I don't know. We don't know. We don't even have telly to find out who's winning the footy war.
See, while they were fighting the footy war, we were fighting the soda war. And it was not the same, you know. People lobbing Dr. Pepper cans at each other. It was a nightmare.
Yeah,
anyway.
like some of the lines, like we talked about the what if it was like pee pee, what if it was like poo poo.
Do not tell me that is fucking normal. What happened to Ryan is happening to me. It's just a matter of time, mate.
Oh, stop wasting time with this Harry Carey crap. This fight isn't lost yet.
With Ryan, it only took a couple of hours, mate. It's a full moon. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's like when you need to take a piss or something. I don't know. When you gotta go, you gotta fucking go.
Well, maybe it's more like needing a shite. Just because you need one doesn't mean you drop your kegs and pinch one off.
Some of the dialogue is just wild. And I had another one like written down as an example where early on you have bad British special ops guy because they're doing this training mission and they're like, oh, we're against special ops. And then they choose to like go this route and he was watching them through binoculars and he calls in and he goes, the flock is going into the fold. Like, it's what? It's like, it's all this really stupid, like, what the fuck are you talking? Just say something normal. Like, just one time.
Yeah, and that's the
man.
problem, because they're military guys. They also, like, sometimes they're saying stuff that's weird just because military guys say things weird, and I can't really tell the difference. And I don't know what's even supposed to be lingo sometimes, because, like, one guy in the squad keeps saying, like, this is bone, this is totally bone, like, it's bad, you know, like, I guess people say we're boned now, but he says, like, this is bone. But then later, someone in the movie asks him, like, what does that mean?
Maybe
oh,
it's
okay.
close to foobar, maybe? Like,
Yeah, I think that it's like you said, like, boned, like, oh, we're fucked, and so he's shortening it to bone, but it's just, yeah, there's some weird dialogue choices. A lot of it is, at first I thought, like, they kind of don't, they acted fully serious pretty much the whole time, and then, like, right at the end, they threw a couple things in, like, where they have it on the tabloids at the very, very end, where it's like, wait, did they know that they were being goofy the whole time? I kind of wish that they'd thrown some other, like, little hints of, like, we get this is stupid in there, but they kind of don't.
So when you think of B movies,
yeah,
I think of, like, Evil Dead, where it's fully goofy the whole way, and it can still have a serious story, but there's, like, silly things that are happening with all the horror elements, especially if you get into the later Evil Dead.
I was gonna say,
series,
Evil
like
Dead 2 is where that really starts.
Army of Darkness. But when people watch a movie, average audience, I will say, they don't want the goofy stuff. They're like, oh, that's stupid. They made me laugh, and that's not scary. So they want the serious military talk of the drama and all this, like, oh, we gotta make it out alive. If we don't, we're gonna poop our pants, like, conversation that they're having. So, like, you and I would roll at that, our eyes at that, and be like, oh, well, the serious stuff is like, I mean, what's happening is stupid. So,
yes, it's very dumb.
So you can treat it seriously, and it can still be funny and interesting. Like, they had, there's a character called Spoon, who is, like, their goofiest member.
Yes.
Who's
he's
constantly
the one
chewing...
that's the veteran of the footy war.
He's the veteran of the footy war. He's constantly chewing gum and swinging around a sword because it's cool.
Yeah, he's having a good time, actually, despite everyone getting killed.
Yeah. But he's like the comic relief character, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
In the situation. And even he has moments of just like, I'm a serious motherfucker. It comes off kind of edgy, is what it does.
Yeah, I feel like the soundtrack, too, is like... I mean, I don't want them to play, like, silly, like, penis music or whatever, or, like, clown noises, but, like...
That's Howling,
it's strange
too.
How... It's just strange how, like, weirdly straightforward and, like, dramatic the soundtrack is. Even when it's something that does look kind of silly, like, when one of the guys is struggling to light a match. It's playing this, like, dramatic music, but it's like... It's not really like, oh, there's a guy right behind him, and it's, like, really scary. Like, the guy's running, and it's in slow motion, and this guy's just totally bungling lighting a match. Multiple times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
The music's totally serious. Like, this is, like definitely serious.
They're acting like there's a time limit to it, because as the guy's running away, he's expecting, like, werewolves in this barn that they're blowing up to come after him. But we, the audience, can see that is not happening.
Yeah.
So there's no tension because there wasn't anything. And then the characters don't realize that until afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like that's almost an editing issue. Where they need to, like, edit it like there's something behind him. Or something, right? Or they need to quick cut it instead of having this slow run. Something weird.
A lot of that doesn't make sense, because there's a ton of little things that just don't add up plot-wise, and also kind of, like, consistency, because he's sitting there desperately trying to light those matches, and then right from behind him, they're like, he fucks up the last one, and it's like, oh no, now they won't be able to light it. Then somebody else just has a lit Molotov. It's like, wait, but then how did he light it? Like, how did you get the Molotov lit to do that? Nah, I don't know, it was just there the whole time. So it was like, wait, there was zero tension here the whole time, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe he had the Molotov equipped. Like, it was already ready to go. Yeah. You don't know.
It's just, there's some real weird stuff like that, where they just... The plot, let's get into maybe a bit of the plot.
The story,
The beginning also starts with a guy in the woods, like, running away, and then he does, like, some action man bullshit and takes down, like, 4 soldiers unarmed, which, it's really funny to me because he never really shows up as that competent again later on. Like, he's the main character and he's competent, but, like, he is, it's not just that he's, like, good in the beginning. I mean, again, he's, like, unarmed in the woods being chased and takes out, like, 4 or 5 fully armed soldiers in, like, seconds, in, like, this rad ninja shit, and then he never shows off, like, that level of skill ever again. But he does that, and then the bad Englishman from Special Ops shows up and goes, alright, that was a real good job in this training exercise. Now I need you to kill this dog.
For no reason.
What? Yeah, well, I need somebody who will listen to orders, so shoot the dog. Okay. He says no. So he goes,
right.
I need men of action, not deeds.
Yeah.
We
were saying that was Mr. Deeds, another 2002 film. We don't need a Mr. Deeds, right?
We certainly did not need
a Mr. Action.
No. We need a Mr. Action. And that movie hasn't been made yet.
Maybe, as you said, maybe it was about property deeds. Maybe he was saying no landlords allowed in my
Sid did say that. Yeah, it could be property
Yeah.
deeds. Yeah.
Yeah, that was odd though too, because it's like because you'd establish something like, oh, this guy won't kill a dog, but then he very clearly says, because it's like, oh, what use to me are you, Cooper, if you can't kill a dog? It's like, I would kill a dog, but I won't kill that dog for no reason.
Which is fair, but then I guess he gets fired, and it shows him as part of the team that gets dropped in later as this training exercise. So it kind of just hard cuts from that. That is one of the few things that I did find really jarring, actually, about, like, kind of the cinematography and stuff, because I did think that was really good throughout most of the film. The one thing I think was jarring is that they really liked their cuts to black.
Yeah, like a bunch of times.
It would just go to black and sit there for, like, 1, 2, and then just a scene would pop back in, and you're like, okay, that's a little rough. Like, the cuts are kind of jarring that way.
I'm wondering if maybe they were shooting it for television, because that could be a commercial break, right?
Maybe. I think
Yeah,
this
but
was
they're
a
not consistently spaced or anything. Like,
No,
the
yeah,
first
that too.
No.
good chunk of the movie doesn't really have that. Like, it's up until they get to the barn, there's like, I think one cut to black.
There's too much swearing and gore now that I think about it for it to be for TV.
Yeah, that too, I guess.
But I mean, that could be part of it. The other thing is they really liked aiming the camera up at the sky and then panning down from black as their transition shot. And you have to imagine, so they're using a 35mm camera. The Auraflex, I believe, is the same one that Stanley Kubrick uses in a lot of his films. So like they're holding a camera over their shoulder.
Yeah.
It's easier to edit film from black than it is to edit together, you know, a sequence. So I could almost see that as just like a technical reason is the why they had to do that.
Sure. It's still, for a film that's pretty competent on all those levels, it's not just that it does fade to blacks. Like, I don't hate fade to blacks. It's just the way that it does it feels real jarring in the way that they go from some scenes to some scenes. Like, it just jumps. And
I'd say it's inconsistent, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also in that opening sequence when they get dropped into the woods. And the other guy who originally told our main character, get the hell out of my squad.
Ryan.
Is Ryan. He's just there, like spying on them and saying the dumb thing about the flock. We, the audience, have no idea what the fuck any of this means or why he's there. And then it just cuts to his group getting attacked at some point. And we're like, is that supposed to happen? Like, what's happening? It wasn't even immediately obvious that this was a training sequence other than the yellow on the guns to indicate that they weren't for, like, real firing. So there's a bit of a storytelling issue there where you're, like, supposed to pick up context clues, I guess, but it's not really told very well. You piece it together later.
And I think that part of my problem with that is that they lean into this idea of there being a big mystery and like, oh, there's this special ops guy and like, oh, what's he hiding? And they kind of have all of that, like they're setting up all these twists and big conspiracies. And they are, to an extent. But the problem for me is that they're all stupid. The answers are all
many different
very
scenes
dumb.
with Ryan where they're like, what are you really doing here? It's like, it's not relevant. It's like, but what are you really doing here? It's like, it's not relevant because I'm in the same situation as you. And then the third time, like, but what are you really doing here? Let's have it. And then he says, like, yeah, I'm here on purpose because of the werewolves. It's like, I mean, by this point, that's pretty solid in mind. It's like the first time it might be a question, but after that, you're like, yeah, it's probably because of the werewolves that he's here.
You could just figure it out. Yeah, you don't need to. There's no mystery here.
Yeah, and then also him going, oh, it's not relevant. I'm in the same problem as you guys. And it turns out it's extremely relevant, actually. Like, it's like the most relevant thing possible. They would have tactics to maybe, I don't know, fight werewolves if they knew that they were werewolves, but he just doesn't tell them any of that. And it's like, but
his motivation,
it's your life on the line too.
Yeah, his motivations don't make sense as the film goes on. Because so originally, he wanted their group, the B team, to be bait for the dog people, the dog soldiers, so that his team of much better, like higher level in the video game,
Yeah.
characters could take out the dog people after they were baited. But he didn't realize there was more than one, so his team got wiped out. So now he's got this B team that sucks, in theory. And he's like, well, I don't want to bother leveling you up. Like, this is going to take too long. So I'm not going to tell you anything. Like, what? What does that mean? Why did he do that?
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Character motivations are weird.
Yeah, there's a point, like, after they find Ryan, like, after he's been attacked, like, his whole team got wiped out and he survived, which, like, I'm not actually really sure how that happened, but,
no,
you know,
I don't,
like, that's fine,
sense.
I guess. Like, you could think of something why, but, like, after that, they, like, make a run for it. They get into a fight with some werewolves. One of the guys actually doesn't get killed by a werewolf. He gets killed by running into a broken off branch on his own so hard he kills himself.
Yes.
Somehow.
That was one of the things I was going to raise up, is that's another one of the, it's dumb, but it's also kind of dumb fun, because it is blunt. Like, we're not talking about, like, a very sharpened, like, small branch that you might have slightly impale you and it goes, like, an inch into him. No, he's running through the woods and it's, like, what, like, 6 inches in diameter? Like, it is a thick trunk, and it has no point on it. It's just blunt. And he runs so hard that it goes out, like, 1.5 foot through his back.
And then the dog soldier walks up, is like, "Wow, that was stupid," and just kills him again. Like, it was like, "Wow."
Yeah, like, lops him off. Like, yeah, well, now, I mean, free meal.
I mean, if you're gonna do that. but yeah, so
that's a guiltless meal. Yeah.
Yeah. He impaled himself like he was already a hot dog, like on a just wiener roast.
But so the rest of the squad is fighting the werewolves, classic Predator style, just shooting bullets into the woods. And then another one gets attacked. What's his name? Bruce, I think. Yeah. And the Sarge gets attacked with him, and he gets his guts ripped out, which is actually a pretty good gore scene, I gotta say. They had good gore effects for what they were trying to do. Not all of it. Some of it was just paint. But
yeah.
But some of it was very good.
Like, well, I remember Sid saying when he impaled himself on the branch, he goes, "Holy shit, you gotta look at that guy's diet, because that blood is wrong."
Oh, yeah, that was, like, solid, like, fire truck red blood. Didn't look like any of the other blood effects in the entire movie.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that one was real weird.
So
like, you bleed different when it's your fault, you know?
I mean, that makes sense.
That's how they handle it in court, actually.
Yeah, maybe you ran into a redwood.
God.
Anyway.
Shut
up. So they're running through the forest, shooting at the dog people, and then a Jeep just appears out of nowhere. And they're running up to the Jeep, and one of them rolls down the hill and lands in front of it so he can get run over, because that's his strategy.
It's a dog movie.
And he doesn't get run over somehow, and instead the lady just jumps out of the Jeep. She's like, "Get in!" And she has no idea what's going on. And there's no reason for her to do this. Until later, when we find out there is a reason.
Yeah, I think that part is kind of okay, although there's other problems with it. But yeah,
there's other problems with the reason she has to do this.
Yes. For now, it kind of is set up right where they shouldn't trust her. They should not trust this woman, because her excuse is, well, I heard gunshots in the woods, so I ran towards them to help the people.
Yeah, she heard them the night before, and now she's caught up to them, and is like, oh, people must be in trouble. It's like, I mean, it's not like random gunshots, like, oh, like a hunter or something. Like, they're using fully automatic weapons. They're going nuts out there.
They're specifically MP5s, they say later on. Like, they're doing full auto, just like over and over through the woods. So, I mean, you're running towards that? You're going out there?
If this was America, I could understand going towards the gunfire. But Scotland?
Real weird.
Weird. Anyway, so she picks them up and takes them to a farmhouse that she says is part of, like, her neighbors of the area.
And it's the closest place, yeah.
And they go in, and this is the Night of the Living Dead situation, where now they're in a farmhouse that they board up the windows and doors, and there's evil monsters outside waiting to put their arms through, while Queen's music is playing on the jukebox.
Yeah.
Very Shaun of the Dead moment. But so they go in. There's still food that's being cooked, which means somebody was there recently. But nobody's there. There's no sign of anybody. There's no sign of a struggle. Everything is suspicious, and they're very dumb.
And none of them question it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, they immediately just like horf down that pork dinner while their like team lead is there with his guts hanging out.
It's a real Goldilocks situation, which it turns out it is later on.
Yeah, they actually say in a way that that's part of the reason why the werewolves are murdering all of them is because of the fact that, oh, well, it's the werewolves' house, see? So they're mad that you ate their food. But then...
I guess...
A weirdly long time for them to be like, wait, no one lives in the Scottish Highlands. These werewolves must be the people who live here who we haven't seen all night.
I also, if that's the case, if they're really upset that they broke into their house and are eating all their food, and even the lady says at the time, she goes like, you're just gonna eat their food, you can't just do that, you can't just like break into these people's house and all this. If they're mad about that, why were they killing them in the woods before that?
Yeah, none of that makes sense.
But
she says there's not a phone or civilization for at least 50 miles. And if you want to get to an actual city, it's 4 hours drive in Scotland.
Yeah, and they need the guy with his guts hanging out. They're like, oh, we won't make it 4 hours.
Yeah.
But also, to put that in perspective, I looked it up because I just laughed so hard the minute they said that. We kind of talked about that. It's like, where the hell in the Highlands are they? Because to go from the north end, the very, very north end of Scotland, the coastline at the very tip, down to the border is 6 hours drive.
Well, there's no civilization, though.
Right. I mean, it is Scotland. There's not a lot of civilization. The footy wars have really devastated the whole
I
region.
didn't say that. I mean, they just don't have internet up there. You know, there's not a net cafe where they can browse their, forums.
It is 2002.
They gotta get on Albino Black Sheep and start browsing some animutations, I get it. That's civilization.
But they're now stuck in this farmhouse, and they're talking about how they've got to last 6 hours until sunrise, because the woman has said that they need to last 6 hours till sunrise.
Yep. And they also find a dog.
Mm-hmm. They do.
In the farmhouse. For some reason, there's a border collie, and it doesn't do anything.
No, not really.
Yeah, actually, it does one thing at the end of the movie.
Kind of. Yeah.
That is like helpful, but it's not really like a setup. I guess you could say he didn't shoot a dog at the beginning of the movie, and now a dog helps him. Except, all the werewolves, I thought was the tie-in to his willingness.
Yeah, I thought
to
that
shoot
was
dogs.
the tie-in. Yeah, and also
they kind of already thematically handled that one. He's like, well, if the dogs are trying to kill me, I'll go way beyond the 3-round bursts I suggested and fire 1 million rounds into all.
That too. They have really bad ammo preservation when they're in a situation where they keep telling the audience, hey, we need to preserve ammo.
They specifically, as Sid mentioned, let's fire in 3-round bursts, and then it goes guy with a shotgun, so it's like, well, okay, that doesn't apply to him, he's the first one firing. The next person goes bop, 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 and does a 3-round burst, and you go, oh, cool, and then it cuts immediately to that. Like, these are in within 10 seconds of each other. They just show like all the different people in the farmhouse, and the last 2 guys are going just spraying absolutely everywhere with MP5s.
And it's like, like these guys are maybe like scared or there's something like no one ever in the entire rest of the movie ever tries to preserve their ammo at all.
Not even a little. It's amazing.
So they have the dog though. I kind of want to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, of course.
As a character or as a moment in the film, it seems weird.
It's really weird.
Because they have this dog, and you would think, okay, so he didn't shoot the dog at the beginning of the movie. He's going to befriend the dog, and the dog's going to help him.
Yeah.
But the character that the dog sticks closest to in the entirety of the film is the lady that they find that takes them to the farmhouse. Megan. I forgot her name. There's a lot of characters in this movie. I only remember, like, Spoon.
Yeah, there's like Spoons. Cooper is kind of the main guy that didn't shoot.
He has
the
a
dog at the
name?
beginning. Yep.
Yeah.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Cooper.
I forgot him already. But so the dog sticks close to Megan, which is not Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
So then later on, spoiler, when she betrays them all,
Yeah.
why does the dog stick with Cooper?
Well, that's the issue that I have in a lot of ways with it, is that it makes sense that the dog stays with her, because as it turns out, it's her house. Because the big plot twist is they see like the family photos in the house, and they go, oh, this family's been here for a really long time, and they're dropping all these hints, so the audience is like, well, okay, so these are the werewolves, right? And all the dumb military guys are, no idea how this could be related the whole time. And eventually they go, wait, she's not in the family photos, but because she took the picture. Dun dun dun.
Because she has a camera she's constantly using through the movie to take pictures of werewolves.
Yes,
Yeah.
like
She's like using the flash
them.
to like distract them, but she is actually taking pictures, it turns out.
So-
as well.
We were joking earlier about wanting pictures of Spider-Man, but she is literally Peter Parker
Oh yeah.
taking pictures of Spider-Man in this movie.
But so it makes sense the dog stays with her because it's her dog.
Mm-hmm.
The part that then makes no sense is there's a couple of times where the dog like barks to let them know werewolves are around, or near the end it basically tries to save Cooper, and it's like, this is their dog. Why is their dog like scared of them? Why is this it? There's things like that that don't match up, and this is the other part of the werewolves thing that the plot doesn't quite work, because it becomes a whole thing of they start talking about as they're boarding up all the windows and things, and there's waves of these werewolves coming over and over throughout the movie. And it's just kind of that for a really long time. Them in the dark, werewolves attack, they fire off a bunch of guns, the werewolves leave. Somebody's maybe pulled through a window, kind of over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And as they whittle away themselves. But they talk about the werewolves attacking in like a pack and having all of this, oh, they're actually really smart, and they're obviously like planning these things, and they're like tricking us and doing all this stuff. And there's also the subplot of the Sarge who had his like belly ripped open, and Captain Ryan, the evil special ops guy who had gotten shredded a little bit at the beginning, suddenly start healing. Oh no, like they're actually going to be werewolves too. So wait, what is it? Is it that werewolves are consumed with bloodlust and bloodthirsty monsters that can't think? Or are they preserved as like they're smart and intelligent and work together and have all this plan? Because they want it both ways, and it doesn't work. Because it's like, okay, they kind of do both, right? Like, they're talking about how they're so smart and they're trying to keep their secret, and that's why they're doing all this to, like, make sure that they can stay out in the woods, and on and on and on. But then at the same time, oh, well, but if you turn, then you're going to be mindless like they are. And it's like, but they're not mindless. So wait, why would that be a problem?
They can also apparently just choose to hold it in. Back to the, apparently, the poop analogy. They can just hold it in and not turn into a werewolf until they feel like it, I guess, even though there's a full moon. But they also transform when there's a full moon immediately, so it's like, which is it?
Yeah, but like I say, but then that would take away the problem of both the Sergeant and Captain Ryan becoming werewolves. And the hold it in is the lady, because she's obviously part of this werewolf family, but the whole time she's just been normal. She's just been a lady.
Until she isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about her transformation, because I hate that scene.
Oh yeah,
it's bad. Out of nowhere, this scene's just like, we're gonna get real sexist. Because she's like, hey, I know that you really want to trust women, but you should never trust a woman. What? Huh?
Yeah, like, she says, like, so that's the reveal scene, is like, they're, like, down to just a few guys, like, everyone else has been killed, so she says, like, oh, well, they're gonna hide someplace at night. They're hiding in the barn, based on my understanding of wolves. Because I guess this is the thing about Megan, is when they talk to her, is that she seems like she's a conspiracy theorist who, like, over time came to believe that werewolves could exist, and she's kind of a crank. And, like, what the first reveal is that Ryan actually had visited the Highlands before, and, like, she was a consultant for his team. And I guess it's just an expedition to see if the werewolves existed, which kind of raises a bunch of questions on its own based on like all the other revelations we have about it, like why they didn't kill all the special forces the first time.
Well, she wanted to show them one as a prank.
Right.
And then
after they blow up the barn, then she's like, oh, there was nothing in the barn. I thought you guys could get me out. Like, she doesn't want to be part of the werewolf family. So she was thinking, oh, these special forces guys can kill them and I'll get out. But then after, I guess, I don't know when she decided it was hopeless. After like 1 or 2 guys died, she'd been like sabotaging them, I guess. So like really not that far in with much of the odds shifted. I mean, maybe she saw them firing full auto all those times, like, nah, these guys aren't gonna. But if they did the 3-round burst, it would be different.
I don't even know what her plan was. So if her plan is to get the platoon to kill the dog soldiers, she's still a werewolf, and even if she leaves, like, what's gonna happen? She's just gonna start.
If she can hold it in, I guess she's just like doesn't want to be a werewolf anymore.
I guess she can hold it in, but also it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't give them something to help, because like they're firing full auto MP5s into these werewolves over and over, and they just keep coming back. They can't die, right? And they're like, well, we don't have any silver, and they're looking through the house, and they're like, oh, well, obviously they don't have any silver in the house because they're the werewolves. Oh my god. Well, but they do have silver in the house, as it turns out. We find out later as a very plot convenient, very stupid thing. I'll mention. We'll get to that in a minute. But then, but she would know that. First of all, she would know that, and then second of all, if she's planned all this as a way to help herself get out, she didn't like sneak some in, she didn't do anything at all to help them. If anything, she's been kind of behind the scenes sabotaging them.
Way down the road when she met them, it's like, what? Why don't you drive away? Are they gonna leave the Highlands and find you in the city or something? Like they're just gonna keep their secret in the city?
There's not an American Werewolf in Glasgow movie, not yet.
Yeah, she could have just left with them. Like, why? Right? There's no reason. They don't talk about or show any of the relationship with her and the family. Like, it's not like the rest of the family ever transforms from werewolves to people and give any.
No, we never see them in people form. No,
they don't become characters at all. So there's no understanding from the audience perspective, because she goes, "Well, do you think I want to be part of this fucked up family?" And it's like, well, but what makes them fucked up? What makes her relationship with them bad?
When it's revealed, like, to the squad that, like, oh, this is the family that these wolves are. And she's like, no, but they're good people. Which I don't know if that's like a lie to like make them
they
hold
like
back, or
maybe they make her, like, I don't know, vacuum the floor once a week and she's upset about it, and like, no, none of this shit, I'm not doing chores. Like,
yeah, like,
I don't know, like,
honestly,
what could possibly be the problem?
Right? And we don't know, because they don't set any of it up, and they're not even characters. So the idea that she's trying to escape from them, and that it's like this whole abusive situation that she's trying to get away from, is just flat. Like, it just comes out of nowhere with no setup, and it doesn't make any sense for her character actions before that or for any part of the plot. And so it's just this out of nowhere thing. And the other, like you were saying, it just gets really sexist in a moment. She does have a line in there that they drop as a one-liner.
Yeah, no, I know what line it is.
I know that everybody was ready to say it, and we all skipped over it. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw it in there. I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to put it in. I'll edit it in, because it's bad.
It's that time of the month.
And all the werewolves kind of pop in from behind her, and they just want to, in some ways, the thing is that the plot is secondary. What they wanted is they wanted something where they could just have a bunch of gore and dudes firing guns all over the place, and that's just going to be fun.
And they wanted one-liners.
And to an extent, it kind of is. So it's kind of that.
I wouldn't say the film has themes.
No.
So its themes are dogs more like pussies. Sit, stay, bad dog, fetch. Like,
it's that time of month. Like, it's
I guess the theme is that lads will always stick together. Stuffy special ops guys, like, they don't care about you, but the lads, they'll always be by your side.
He was gonna watch footy. You killed him. No, I get it. Okay, so they do talk about the werewolf lore a bit. I think this is interesting. There's 3 things to know about werewolves. They transform on a full moon.
Yep.
They're weak to silver.
Yeah,
And
these
they
are things I
have-
know about werewolves.
They have werewolf brows, unibrows.
Oh yeah, the three things that everyone knows about werewolves.
werewolf unibrow. So what's interesting about that is an original concept from a movie that you and I have watched, Ilion.
Yes.
Which is Company of Wolves, which is another pretty famous, I would say, werewolf film. Partly because of the cover, less so
Yes.
the film, I will say.
Yeah.
And also Angela Lansbury, of course. But so in that movie, which is just a collection of short films, there's
Yes,
a short
fairy
film
tales around
about a
wolves.
guy with a unibrow, and they're like, don't ever trust a guy with a unibrow.
Yeah.
And he marries a girl, and then he becomes an abusive shithead, and he turns into a werewolf in a very cool transformation sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the unibrow thing comes from, is Company of Wolves. So they're straight up literally referencing Company of Wolves there. Because it's not anywhere else. That is not a fairy tale about werewolves in any culture.
But weirdly,
Interesting.
in the dialogue, like one of the guys mentions that, it's like, wait, werewolves, like, weak to silver, turn moonlight, like, have the eyebrows that meet in the middle. And at first it's like, oh, okay, that's like a silly reference. But then a couple of lines later, Megan's like, also, that's a myth about the eyebrows.
Yeah, that eyebrows thing is bullshit. Yeah.
Look, I'm a
It's
conspiracy theorist, but that's bullshit. Well, she would know, though.
Right. But
Right?
it's just like, it's funny that like they address it twice, so it's like, wait. Like, because
Yeah.
they do like little cheeky references. Like at the point where like Spoon gets killed, when they come into the room where he was like fighting the werewolf. Great scene, by the way.
Yes, he just
But-
starts throwing hands with the werewolf.
God, the fucking
Yeah.
spoon scene is so good.
So good. He is like yelling like a madman too. It's great. But like, when he gets killed because he's trying to fist fight a werewolf and he's a normal man.
This turns out doesn't work.
When they're like looking for him, Sarge finds the body and like, where's Spoon? And he says, there is no Spoon.
Yes, yeah.
Well, do you have a fork? I mean, like, yeah,
It's
but
real good.
his death is very reminiscent of Jesse Ventura in Predator, where the Predator has him. He's like, fuck you. Like, although in this case, Spoon spits his gum in the werewolf's mouth, which is gross. You can't do that, man. Like, come on. That's disgusting. You trying to pass germs? What are you doing?
I was hoping the werewolf would choke on it. It's gum.
That would have been great if the werewolf just like choked to death on gum.
But we have all of those things. Everybody's kind of slowly been whittled down, and eventually we get to the point where, let's kind of get to the end here.
Sure.
He decides that the sergeant is turning, so he's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. Forces Cooper, the other last survivor, into the basement. And he goes, I'm going to blow up the whole house, except the basement. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Which is amazing in itself.
It's got a great foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he chops the gas line to the stove and then blows the house up. All the werewolves blow up, and Cooper is down in the basement now. And Captain Ryan shows back up, and there's actually there's some really cool stuff in here, in that he has a sword that they had stabbed him with, and it's through his chest still, but he can't die because he's a werewolf. And he starts grabbing Cooper's head and pulling him onto the sword.
That's a really good scene. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, there's some really good visual stuff in here. But then the dumbest possible Deus Ex happens. In that there was a scene that we neglected to mention at the very beginning of the film because it was totally irrelevant. I almost forgot about it. It showed two campers before even the special ops thing. There were two campers out in the woods, a man and a woman, and they're telling each other stories and different things, and then they start having the sex, because they ought to immediately get to
Because
TNA.
they're death flagging very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Whole time.
Yeah. She
And
gifted
also-
him a letter opener because he he's an author, I guess, and he I forgot his novel came out or poems or something, but he had a big milestone he reached.
Yes. And she gives him a silver dagger, letter opener kind of thing, as commemorative thing. Which, very, here is this silver dagger for you
It's pure
specific.
silver.
it's great too because as they're doing that scene, he's like, "Man, I'm so glad I'm alive," and she's like, "Yeah, I love living.
Yes.
I can't wait to live more and longer. Here, have this cool silver dagger letter opener. Let's go have sex because we love living so much."
And for some reason, the werewolves kept all of the stuff after killing them in the basement, and the silver dagger is just there. Cooper realizes it's silver by just looking at it in the corner for some reason, grabs it, stabs Captain Ryan, and wins the day. It's...
The only reason I can think he knows that's there, by the way, is because all the soldiers were telling stories around a campfire during the training mission. And one of those stories was the campers that we saw in the intro. So I don't know if they mentioned the silver
They did not.
opener.
No, they didn't. Yeah, he just saw it.
But that would have been the only reason he would even think about it. Sorry, go ahead.
He stabs him with the letter opener, and then he shoots Ryan in the head, and that blows his head clean off.
Well, silver doesn't
in a way that... Yeah. I guess if they'd stabbed everyone else and then fired the 5,000 MP5 bullets into them, it would have worked. You gotta prime them first with the silver.
Yeah, I guess.
Though I guess the other ones didn't get stabbed by silver; they got blown up in the kitchen. It's
it's super inconsistent.
Can you blow up a werewolf? I thought they didn't die. Well, anyway,
the lore is wildly inconsistent, but I will say
also
in
mentioning
general,
that they didn't have any silverware around the house. But they saw a silver letter opener as a prize of something they go like, "Oh, we gotta keep the silver letter opener.
That thing's cool as shit."
Where are we gonna keep it? I don't know. Throw it into a corner in the basement that's full of like hanging corpses, where we keep all of our best stuff.
Whatever.
At the same time, I kind of want to give this movie a bit of a pass with how dumb the plot is, because I think that, again, they didn't care. That's not the point of this. The point of this is what Boyks had said earlier, where he's like, man, they're boarding up that same window for the 6th time. There's a lot of defenestration in this movie.
He kept throwing them out of the same window. And then boarding it up and be like, well, they won't break through this time. Like, come on.
It's that one window quite literally got boarded up, I think, no less than 6-7 times. Like, it is amazing how often it happens. To the point where, like, the dude's, like, loading the gun in front of the window, and we're just like, oh my god, what are you doing? 3 people have gone through this window already. Just go away from the fucking window.
Behind him. I guess it's like, all clear right now, so I'm gonna stay by the window and turn around, and then the wolf reaches through. It's like, I mean, why do you think the situation wouldn't change in 1 second?
That's like the exact scene where we, the audience, are like, get the fuck away from the window. What are you doing? And then he hears us talking about it. He's like, oh, don't worry, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man.
The best part about the window being broken through like 6-7 times is there's only like 5 people in the company. But what happens is that, like, the werewolf grabs him through the window, and they manage to save him. So, like, they break through the window a few times, and nobody actually dies, so they can just break through that same window multiple times, like, over and over. Like, they drag people out, save them, and then drag them through the window again to kill them later. It's amazing.
Look, as a filmmaker, we only have one window, all right? We need to make this work for the whole shoot. So...
I was gonna say, there are some, like, visual gags, too, that are like we said, like, did they know this was dumb? I mean, there are moments like that, like when they're hammering boards on a door and then a werewolf's hand reaches through, so they just, like, casually swap to hitting the werewolf in the hand over and over.
The throwing the soup in the face was really good,
they put on a bunch of pots of boiling water to throw at them. And I like that scene, too, because Cooper's like, I put on pots of boiling water, like, for the defense. He's like, also put the kettle on, we're gonna need a brew. It's like, that's also boiling water. You can't just use the one you already have. Like, you can just use it again. Like, we use this for tea. We can't throw this at the wolves now. What if it gives them energy with the brew?
Yeah, it has some real fun with a lot of it. But I think that we've kind of covered the whole movie, and we've got to look at that border collie. Then how are you rating some of these dogs?
Let's rate the dog. So there's the border collie, who is the dog to the dog soldiers. That dog is, I gotta say it. That dog is not loyal. That is a I don't know. I don't know how to rate this dog. It's a good dog to Cooper, but it's a bad dog to the family.
That's
Right?
true.
Also, on Sarge's dress wound, like it starts pulling on.
That was funny.
Oh my god, right. Yeah, that was really
What?
funny.
Which was another scene. It's like, oh, is Ryan gonna shoot this dog too? And like he gets cut off by one of the other teammates, like getting grossed out and
Yeah.
throwing up on him. But like,
Yeah, what was the
That-
point of
why
that
did he
scene?
do
He
that?
just starts like playing tug of war with the bandage.
That was
they
very funny,
bandaged
is
him
what
up
it
with.
was. I would say I would rate the Border Collie if somebody broke into my house and had a treat, that dog would just let them in out of 10.
I have a rating for this that you clued in for me. I'm gonna rate this dog a man's best friend out of 10 because it was man's best friend, not other dog's best friend. That's what
true.
dogs are. This is a perfect dog. This is a good boy.
That's
That
true.
is
I won't have you
point.
slander it.
Yeah,
except
how would you
for
rate
pulling
the
on the
dog?
guy's wound, which is very anti-man behavior.
Well, Captain Ryan's not a man anymore. That he's already turned.
Well, not
into a
Captain Ryan, the
werewolf.
Sarge. There was the Sarge.
Oh,
as well.
was
the
the
Sarge?
Yeah.
Well, the Sarge is also turning.
Sarge is also a dog.
He's also
right?
becoming a dog.
Yeah.
Dog knows man. He knows man. He don't truck with no other dogs.
How would you rate the dog, Sid?
I feel like it didn't do enough. Also, you know, like I
Mhm.
just strangely uninvolved. Like outside of just causing a little trouble and then attacking Ryan at the end to save Coop.
Dog not appearing in this film out of 10.
Yeah.
Dog
Pretty
stayed in
much.
his trailer out of 10.
That's
He was-
I will
pretty
say
much
though,
it,
that dog, incredibly well kept.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very the whole time. Like Coop found it in a closet or something, right? He was like locked in there.
Yeah, they kind of locked
Actually,
their
why is
dog
that-
away in a closet.
Yeah, what the hell?
Because like there's a scene after they kill Spoon, they like move their faces right up close to the dog, like its face, like, oh, are they gonna eat the dog or kill the dog or something? And they don't, so they don't. I guess have they ever not tried like seeing if they would kill the dog or not? I don't know.
Who knows?
The dog's
It's a very
relation to
pretty
the rest of
dog,
the
though.
werewolves is weird.
It's a
I
cute
think
dog. I'll give
Yeah.
it a pass because I mean, there's plenty of people whose pets are not
Yeah.
like intelligent. And we give them a pass all the time. So in trying circumstances, did show up when it mattered the most.
That's true. The other rating would be for all the dog soldiers. I think they're good dogs. They like to jump around. They love playing pranks. It's like when you go to the bathroom and your cat constantly puts its paw under the door. I get it. They just they want to make sure you're okay, so they're putting their hand through the window.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
you in
yeah,
there?
one
Why
of
is this
the-
closed? Why is this closed?
Just let us
During
in.
one of the times when they're like under siege, the werewolf grabs the shotgun out of the guy's hand and he dives out of the way and it shoots through the window, but then throws the shotgun back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever. I just wanted to give it a shot. It's been ages since I fired a gun because I'm a werewolf, you know. But yeah, I just want to see how it felt.
I only shoot
Not
a
my
gun
thing.
during the day, not the night. You're like, come on.
I'm gonna rate these dogs like the Simpsons meme with the lawyer, where it's like dogs, period, soldiers. Because
Oh,
the dogs are not soldiers. The soldiers are soldiers. The dogs are dogs. So these are it's. We thought that we were looking at dog soldiers, but it's no dogs. Soldiers. Sorry, we just had a little typo there.
That makes sense. But that's it for this episode of Rough Cuts, I suppose. You could, of course, support us on Patreon at Rough Cuts. You can follow us on Blue Sky at Rough Cuts. You can email us at roughcutscast@gmail.com. We want to thank Sid here for guesting. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything
thanks
you
for having me.
want to plug while you're here? Of course, the Bad Game Hall of Fame, but...
Yeah, so I appear on that show like intermittently, like the streams, but bi-weekly we have the Bad Game Hall of Fame podcast that I host and edit. We're actually recording it later today. I kind of didn't think about that when I was telling you dates that I'm free. I'm just like, when do I have the least amount of homework due? But yeah, you can find me there. I have a link tree that's just Beam/X. And that has like all the stuff. Like I have another podcast, but it started 9 years ago and there are 9 episodes, so it's not like I'm still doing it. It's just more of a side thing. And that also has like a link to other podcasts I've showed up on and like all my appearances on Bad Game Hall of Fame. And yeah, I'm on Blue Sky at Beam/X. So I mostly just post the jokes. That's how I know everybody online.
That's how I know you.
Yeah.
It's the joke guy. And some very, very good Elden Ring characters. And
the one character I make in every game, yeah.
Mhm.
So
True.
otherwise I'll spend too long the character creator, but then I'm like, but she'd look cooler with this combinations of outfits. But this one has a little dangly piece hanging on the side that I hate, and I can't stand it, so I have to change her entire outfit. Yeah, I don't know. Is that a job? Can I get paid to do that? I spent a really long time on it.
Soul's fashion designer is a pretty good thing to put in
That's
your
a pretty
resume.
good job. That's a pretty good job. Well, anyway, I think now that the episode is over, it's time for us to all go watch some footy.
I need to know the score on the footy war. That's the whole reason why I've been going. I'm going to drive 4 hours to make sure I can find civilization.
I gotta
again.
check out the local newscast to see if that footy war is like escalating, because this is not looking good.
I just hope it's not Bone.
Got to get me out of here before they come back. Who, Captain? Who is going to come back?
Dogs. They're coming.